Section 66 of Narratives of Colored Americans. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Tom Merritt. Narratives of Colored Americans by Abigail Mott and M.S. Wood. Quamino Buccan, a pious Methodist. Quamino was born in the vicinity of New Brunswick, New Jersey, in 1762, and was a slave. In his 9th year, he was hired for a term of years to a person named Skenk, who employed him as a house servant, and who, soon after removing to Poughkeepsie, New York, took the lad with him. The unsettled state of the country during the Revolutionary War prevented communication with his old master, and Quamino had no hope of seeing his former friends. But in his 18th year he was informed that his master had sent for him. On his return to New Jersey, his old associates had so grown that he felt like a stranger in his old home. When nearing the age of manhood, he was steady in attending religious meetings, walking several miles through all kinds of weather. His own account of his motive in going was that he liked to have the name of being a good boy. But whatever his motive in going, the meetings were a blessing to him. One Sabbath evening, on reaching home, he went to the barn, where, after earnest exercise in prayer, he slept upon the straw. Very early in the morning he went into the field to work, first kneeling by the fence. Being in great distress, the gracious words of the Savior deeply impressed him. "Let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God, believe also in me." Yielding his whole heart and all his powers to him who was calling for the sacrifice, he felt that he received the unspeakable gift. He went to his work, and "Oh," said he, "everything was glorious around me. Everything seemed to be praising God." The change which had come over the boy was conspicuous to all around him. He was quiet and diligent in attention to all his duty. From this time Quamino understood the nature of that peace which passeth all understanding. On the Sabbath he would get the carriage ready, and when his master had started, he would walk several miles across the fields to the Methodist meeting, but always left before the conclusion of the services, as, if not at home in time to take the horses when the family arrived, he was sure to be found fault with, if not punished. At the age of 26 he married Sarah, a slave on a neighboring place. She was soon sold to a distance of 5 miles, and for some years they only met once a week. One Sabbath morning he went to see her, and found that she and her infant had been sold, leaving her little son, a boy nearly 4 years old. She now had a hard master, but through the efforts of her husband she was purchased by a neighbor, and at length, by the removal of this purchaser, Quamino induced his second master, to whom he had been sold when about 30 years old, to buy her. Afterwards Dr. Griffith bought Quamino for $250 and Sarah for $150. At the death of Dr. Griffith, his goods and chattels, including his slaves, were advertised to be sold at public auction. The sale commenced, and Quamino and Sarah became objects of much attention. But a letter was received from William Griffith, the son and executor of the late master, directing that everything should be sold to the highest bidder, except the carriage and horse, and that, with these, Quamino should bring Sarah to Burlington. "Oh, my dear friend," said he in narrating it, "you do not know how I felt." William Griffith was not only an eminent lawyer, but bore a part in originating the New Jersey Abolition Society. For this excellent man, whose record is on high, Quamino worked to the best of his ability. One day, as he was at work in the garden, he heard his name called, and seeing his master beside him, he modestly said, "Sir, we will describe what took place in the good old man's words." Says he, "Would you like to be free?" And I said, "I don't know, sir." He stood in silence for a little while, and I went on working, the same as before. At last he said, "I've made up my mind to give you free." And says I, "You give me free, master?" Oh, it all came on me so unexpected. And then he up and told me all how he would do. "When I call you, you must take your wife by the hand and come into my office." One day he called me to bring my wife. I went in the kitchen and said, "Mother, Mr. Griffith says you must come along with me to the office." She stroked her apron, and we went, and found the office full of gentlemen, and there we stood, as if we were just married. After answering some questions, they went back to their work, and their certificate of freedom was recorded in the clerk's office in Burlington. They were then hired at $10 a month. Quamino was then 44 years old. When asked by some of his old friends if he was happier since he received his freedom, he said, "I don't know much about freedom, but I wouldn't be a slave again if you'd give me the best farm in the Jarseys." In the year 1842, when he was 80 years old, his wife died suddenly. As the remains of Sarah were borne from their humble home, he stood at the door, supported by his crutches, the tears streaming down his cheeks. "Farewell," said he. "I shall see her no more till we meet within the pearl gates." Sarah was not inferior to her husband, to whom she was a helper in spiritual and temporal things. He felt this bereavement keenly. His situation without her was forlorn, living alone in his house, too feeble to dress himself. His son, who was out at service, would put him to bed at night and come in the morning to dress him. Arrangements were made by several families to furnish him with dinner, each taking a particular day, and this plan was pursued for 8 years. His landlord supplied his morning and evening meal until Quamino's sight entirely failed, when a faithful caretaker was provided for him. Charles Tabor, a friend and a minister from Canada, visited him one morning and was fervently engaged in prayer. When he rose from his knees, Quamino exclaimed, "Now I know that my prayer was heard. This morning, after blessing and praising the Master for taking care of me through the night, I asked him to please to send me something to comfort me through the day, and now he sent you to me, oh, my dear friend." Speaking of the evidence of evil around us, he said, "God is his own interpreter and my comforter, and he will make all things plain." Referring to his pains, he said, "The Lord is the physician. He has a balm for every wound. It seems, as I sit here, I have a view over Jordan. We must pass Jordan's swelling flood, and then we'll be in the promised land." In reference to his blindness, he said that with his natural sight and comprehension, he had never been able to conceive the half of the glory which should be revealed, or to form a conception of the good things held in store even for so poor a creature as he felt himself to be. "How long I have to remain in this state," he exclaimed, "the Lord knows. I resign myself in his hands and to his wisdom. Oh, the Lord moves with me so beautiful. I trust the Lord has enabled me to seek and to find his face and favor." Being inquired of concerning his health, he replied that he could not wish to be better, that he was so composed in mind, so calm and peaceable. "Oh, the glorious prospect I have in view! I can't see anything of this world, but there seems to be a hovering around me. If the heart is composed to his will, what can trouble us? Blessed Master, please to give me an insight into thy will." He spoke of the comfort and strength which is afforded him to hear the Scriptures read. "Oh," said he, "if I could only find the words to express the feelings I have when I am alone. And yet I do not feel that I am alone either. He cares for us and provides for us, but he is all in all and over all. He leads us by his Spirit. He don't compel us, but enables us. Oh, my blessed Savior, teach me, oh, teach me the measure of my days, that I may turn my thoughts more to it, but I trust in the Lord that he will prepare me and keep me to the end." William J. Allison called on him one morning. He found the old man, who was 108 years of age, sitting in his chair. He gave his visitor an earnest welcome, and his tongue was eloquent with rejoicing praises of him who had made him meet for an inheritance with the saints in light. "Glory be to the blessed Master," he cried again and again, clasping his hands like an artless and overjoyed child. On this occasion, and indeed in almost every interview, he devoutly expressed his thankfulness that, although deprived of sight, his reason and memory were spared him, and this was remarkably the case to the last moment of existence. "My dear friend has been to visit me once more," he exclaimed repeatedly after this parting. This was his last conversation with anyone, except a few words to his son and his attendant. In the night he called his son, and with his mental powers apparently clear to the last, and conscious that his end had arrived, his purified and enfranchised spirit deserted the clay tenement. And who can doubt his welcome into the joy of the Lord? A few weeks afterwards, a sermon relating to Quamino was preached by the pastor of the Methodist congregation to which this aged Christian belonged. The text was, "This poor man cried, and the Lord heard him and delivered him out of all his troubles." Psalm 34:6. See thy Savior bending over thee, even to old age the same. Set life's one chief end before thee, still to glorify its name, while on himself is fixed thy sight. At evening time there shall be light. End of section 66.